What? Leah just entered this conversation by saying you're going to get my nostrils. I'm not sure what that
You were
means.
adjusting the camera thing.
Oh,
And it was
you got this
like giving me a solid no shot. So I thought it was funny.
Those are the best. Good thing it's clean. Hey, welcome to Wednesday, which means it's time for another edition of Live and Unscripted right here on the Righteous Rebels. And you are with the Righteous Rebels themselves, Jen Saunders and Leah Montani. Actually, are we doing, I never know.
I don't know. I
Leah
go by
spelled
Leah.
Ligia.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
go by because no one says my name right. So I just go by Leah, but it's actually spelled Ligia. So
I'm really glad you clarified that. I don't know why. That's just funny. Okay, so it's Wednesday, the 24th of May, and we decided that today we're going to take over the spotlight. But before we get going, for those of you who are new with us today, we we have a little bit of housekeeping stuff we do, and one of those things is to start with just some simple breathing as a way to let go of what's already happened in the day and to let go of what you think is going to happen for the rest of the day and just bring you to this space that's right here, right now, where we can all lean into the conversation, we can lean into inspiration, and just really be present with what's going on. And I'll tell you, as sitting in my seat, I appreciate when we're in that space because I can feel it. I can feel when we have the energy of people just um, being a part of what's going on here and recognizing that we value that, we welcome that, and that this isn't something that we just want to talk at you, but we want to be with you and have you be part of the conversation. If you are joining us live, we encourage you to ask questions or give feedback in the comments. We most of the time can see those. With Leah's help, I'm able to see more of them. And if you're watching it on a replay, ask the questions. We'll come back through it and we'll keep tabs on them. So today's breathing, we're just going to do simple, just in through the nose, out through the mouth. The last couple of weeks we've been doing it so that you feel expansion through your chest, so giving room for your heart and all the intercostal muscles of the ribs to like open up and do their thing. And today I'm going to invite you to move that expansion down just a little bit so that it's more in the lower half of your rib cage and feeling your rib cage actually expand out as well. And if you need to, stick your hands, like touch your ribs and actually feel whether or not they're moving. And as you're breathing in, I'm going to invite you to breathe in through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Again, focus on the rib cage and feel that. But breathe in something that feels joyful. Whether it's a memory or it's something that you're wanting to create or just something that brings you joy. It could be music, it could be a food, it could be whatever it is. And then just exhale any just like lower energy that you got stored in there somewhere. Just breathe that stuff out. So we are going to invite you to do this with either a downward gazed or closed eyes, whichever feels most comfortable with you. And we're going to do it for about 60 seconds. Sometimes that can feel like a really long 60 seconds. Just hang with it. Really focus on your rib cage and the expansion there, giving your heart and your lungs room to do what they were created to do. And that's to keep you alive and to help you experience all of the goodness. Slowing down your breathing also brings heart back into coherence so that you can be more present in your thinking and in decision making and in creativeness. So go ahead and take that downward gaze or close eyes. I'm going to do this with you. Take in that first breath, again, focusing in the rib cage, feeling it expand and contract. And if you feel that breath go down into your belly, that's okay. Just start that expansion in your rib cage. Breathing in those things that bring joy, just that feeling of joy. And breathing out any of the lower energies that may just be hanging around. All right, take one more big deep breath that way. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. Awesome. I was going to look up in the book Power versus Force. I was going to look up joy. It vibrates really high. Oh, 540. It vibrates at a 540. So like on this scale, it goes from 20 to 1,000. And again, this is in the book Power versus Force, the hidden determinants of human behavior. Great book. But I love how he talks about energy and he's put it on a scale. Shame vibrates at 20, and which is basically just above death. So when we're operating in shame, we're operating just above death. 200 is like a breaking point. 200 is courage. And then joy radiates at 540. Some of the emotions we feel with joy are serenity. Our life view is that we're feeling complete. And this is a really great book. I would highly recommend it. So just notice the difference. Like, what did you feel when you started to take those breaths in and you were thinking about things that were joyful? And because I can only hear Leah in this conversation, Leah, would you share what you experienced?
It's always I loved in Live and Scripted last week, Doug reminding that this is something that we can do several times throughout the day to recenter ourselves. I know there's always stuff coming at us, and always, fires to put out, whether it's at work or at home, or our emotional fires that can flare up and when we're going through things, and just remembering to take that minute to just recenter yourself. It's like getting really worked up about sharing feels that you're having, and then recognize that you're getting worked up, and then taking that second to just slow it back down. And I know you've given me reminders like, hey, you've got a lot going on in your head right now. Like, just take a second to breathe, and just how much more centered I feel when I take a second to breathe. We take that for granted
Right.
so often, and just it feels really good, because all that swirling that's going on that feels so fast and so overwhelming suddenly just doesn't feel so big and so overwhelming. Like, it just feels like, oh, okay, this is where I can start. This is my next step, and just helps you refocus. So,
I love that. The picture that comes to mind as you're talking about that is, it doesn't make the issues go away per se, or it doesn't take them out of attention. But what it does is it feels like it puts you in the eye of the storm. It gets you out of the swirling of it and puts you in a place where you can like actually see the things swirl, and you can go, okay, I can breathe in here. It's a little safer in here. I'm not just being tossed and tumbled around, and to trust. This is one of the things I love teaching people, is that when we're in the center like that, and all of the issues or what we've got going on is swirling around us, what happens so beautifully is when it's time for us to actually have an answer or to bring something to it just gently comes in back into our presence. It doesn't even always, I'm like, I just all of a sudden had a picture of it, something just like flying out of the storm. I can't say that I've ever had that happen when I've taken the time to just be quiet and slow down. And so just as you were talking about that, just that's the visual that popped into my mind, is we're putting ourselves in the center. It's not making things go away. It's just allowing us space to be more clear and more intentional and present.
Well, I guess it's like also re-engaging your thinking mind and not just moving from your emotional mind. So you can process things a little differently and put it into perspective and have be in a space of serving yourself instead of hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So
Coherence. It's the word coherence. Is bringing heart and mind back into coherence, into a place again where there's a more natural, smooth rhythm for us to function from.
well, and when you say that, I think of where you're moving from your heart, because I often, like, I know you and I have had that conversation. Like, I don't recall a time that when I'm moving from a heart space that it's hurting me, but I know when I've moved from being way too much in my head can hurt me. You know, it's that whole thing, what do I listen to, my head or my heart? And I know I've, you know, whether it was with anxiety or depression or, you know, getting in the overthinking stuff, like I was hurt by my brain, by like my mind and how it worked. And but when I learned to sit more in my heart and really allow space for whether it's feelings, whether it's just slowing things down enough so I can process it differently. I don't recall a time that moving from my heart would hurt me the way that my mind has. So
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up. Our minds just, it's amazing. Our minds are amazing. As you're talking, like pictures are coming to me. Some of my favorite pictures are like the heart and mind. They don't necessarily have faces, but they have hands. And they're like holding hands, and the heart's like, "Hey, I'm actually the one in control here," and like, can we just sit down and have a conversation? And I just love those pictures. It actually makes me think of it's on Instagram, the awkward Yeti. That person does a fabulous job of representing heart and mind interactions. You're like,
sorry.
that sounds like me.
I was just going. I apologize. I didn't think it would bring the audio on, just so I could correct comments. That's all.
I'm glad you're doing that because I didn't even turn mine over there yet. Anyway, so you guys, we're so excited to be back here today. We haven't done one together for a little while, and so we're so excited to be here and happy that you have chosen to join us. Again, we want to recognize that time is so valuable and that you're choosing to share it with us means a lot because we know that there's a lot of other places that you could give your time and attention to, and that you make us important. And what we have to say important is it's the bomb, and we recognize it, and we're just going to say thank you. Today, we've I'm getting my own phone here. There we go. Um, we're like, what are we going to talk about today? Recently, Lee and I had a discussion where one of us, me, probably got a little unnerved by the topic of not unnerved, just bothered. The person got bothered, me. Um, the conversation. I just get really I just
Wait, is this an AI thing or is this something else?
that's it may have been. I don't know if it was in that conversation. I was bothered by that one too.
Yeah.
I will fully admit it. Um, no, it was the conversation about burnout, which is
Yes.
probably a different conversation. And
You didn't
I
want to be
just
known as the burnout coach. I remember that
yeah
now.
yeah, and I don't. But as we were talking, and you know, I think part of the reason is I feel like that stuff, and I could be fully wrong. I fully take responsibility that and leave room for that I'm incorrect. Um, I just feel like that stuff gets beaten down, and that we're actually missing the mark, and we're missing what's actually happening. And as you and I were talking, I started having this really cool download of, wait a second, this is probably more of what it is, and it's more in line with what you and I do by way of using play and creativity to bring people and their ideas to life. It's we use those things as our teaching tools and a way to get behind the guardians of the mind and bring physical learning together with emotional and mental and spiritual learning. And I loved the conversation that we had, and that we're gonna share it here today. So do you want to take it from there? I mean, I can go into it. I just don't want to. I know you have things to say.
No, I'm just trying to remember where I know where it kind of started, but I think the part that, because we talk a lot about bringing people and ideas to life, and that's the mission and the goal behind what Righteous Rebels is, and our aim to bring to people. I think the part that I found really interesting was how you talked about the spark. And when I think of burnout, I think that our internal spark has been dampened, or has been put out or extinguished, or whatever word you want to put to that, by all the demands of life. And if you think of a fire, I think we were talking in line with when you go camping, you create a fire, you're out in the wilderness, you're making that fire, but you need that spark to get everything going. And even when you get it going, if you put way too much on that spark or on that flame, it's going to suffocate it, and it's not going to be able to grow and continue to burn and give off light and warmth and all the things that come with fire. And I thought it was really neat how in that conversation, that's how, what I think we were talking about, what are the things that reignite that fire when you feel like it's been put out, or what are the things that help us maintain that fire? Or, I think we even talked about the people around us that are either going to fan that fire and help it grow, or they're going to put something on it and suffocate that and not let it breathe and do its thing. So I'm not sure which way you want to go, Jen.
Either. I appreciate you bringing up all those points, because when Leah was like, "And we need to do," my screen keeps going black. I'm not sure why. Leah's like, I want to talk about this on a live and unscripted. I'm like, awesome. I don't know what I just said, because it was like a total download, and I was just spitting it out as it was coming out, into my mind. And so, but here was my thought process before all of that came. And it was I was feeling like kind of annoyed with the whole concept of burnout, because I feel like a lot of people on this planet, in their lived experience, they're not even really to burnout, because they've never really had their spark fanned enough to build a flame. They haven't, and that's part of what they're experiencing. They may think that it's burnout. Now, I'm not saying that if you, the listener, have not experienced burnout, I'm not saying that at all, because some of you probably have. I feel like the greater issue is that we never even get to the place where we have a fire to burn out. We don't step up into our dreams, and we don't take action into what our heart is calling us to do and what our soul is saying. It's out there. We feel it. We feel that little spark. We just don't know how to fan it. So we're not suffering from burnout. We're suffering from never being ignited, from never being lit up. And that is almost as suffocating as burnout may feel.
But we think that's like almost normal, that and we put that into, I'm grown up, I'm too grown up, I'm supposed to feel this way, I'm supposed to feel like I'm just going through life and not that. Those are childish things, and I don't have time for that, because I have bills to pay and I have responsibilities here, and I got to do all the things and check the boxes, and we think that's just for kids, and I think that's why, for in my space, it's creativity is what helps bring out that spark and bring out that creativity and that playfulness, and not our creativity, our just connect to us to that flow, and curiosity is the word I was looking for.
Oh man.
When's the last time we were really curious about something that we wanted to learn more about it? We think it ends with school, and that you have to be in a program and that to be learning, but that's
or if you work Or if you were curious, did you take action on it, or did you just do kind of what Leah said earlier of like, that's childish, or that's something for, oh, I should have done a long time ago, or I'm too old, or I'm like,
You don't make it
you
a
gave it all kinds of,
priority.
right? And you don't fan your flame that way, or your little spark that way. It's part of the reason that I love creating our learning experiences through using experiential, and especially those that have to do with nature and with play. The river trip, for example. What a beautiful place to like feel fear, to like feel like you have that spark and you're not sure if you should go, you're not sure if you're capable enough, you're not sure if you can camp on a beach, you're not sure if you can get along with other people, or that you belong, or whatever the things are. What an amazing opportunity to use your creativity, to use your playfulness, to live in curiosity for all the things that are going to take place, and to be able to grow that, to like really start fanning that spark into a flame. And by the time you're done, you have a big old fire to take home with you to then start living from. And that lights me up, is that we can use playful experiences to fan that spark.
But
And to bring,
even, as you're talking, I'm thinking like the roles that we play in our everyday lives, in our everyday environments, in our everyday routines. When you're out of that space, you're seeing differently by, however many people are there. They're not going to see you as your role. They're going to see you however you choose to show up in that space. And because it's a neutral, new space for everyone there, you can literally show up however you want, and or maybe feel safe enough to show up differently than what you're used to, and how people see you. I know when I went to India, that was a huge eye opener for me in how people gave me feedback on how they saw me, or how I was showing up, and just it surprised me, and it made me look at myself differently, and want to show up and rise to how they were looking at me, versus just being comfortable in my everyday role of what I thought was big, but like but I think, what's that called, like masking that feeling of like not enough, and I don't feel like I belong here, and just all
the
those
imposter
feels.
syndrome.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a beautiful opportunity to step into a different light that maybe you haven't even known that you wanted to, or that um I think of, Jen, like that, what comes easy to us and we take for granted as skills for us can be really challenging for others. And
Absolutely.
when you're in those spaces, you unknowingly serve those around you by maybe being open, or knowing how to do, in that situation, maybe it's like knowing how to tie a knot. I don't know, but like that you have things of value to offer that you take for granted, and being in that space allows other people to acknowledge that, and see those talents and skills that you have that you just totally take for granted.
I agree, and I like that piece of being able to just, it totally takes me back to the story I've shared of like when I was performing a lot, and especially in my younger years of performing, thinking that I got to be somebody different when I went on stage. And it's kind of the same thing. Like you step onto the boat and you think you're being somebody different, but the reality is when I stepped on stage, I really was just stepping into more of who I am. And it's the same for you, the listener, who is stepping into any of our activities, or any activity that you do, and you think you're stepping into being somebody different or new, but the reality is you're just stepping into more of who you are, and expressing that for more people to see, and being able to practice that in a place that feels safe, so that when you step back into your, I'm going to say real world, I don't believe it's our real world, but that you're more practiced and able to be those pieces of you along with the others. And maybe some of it is really just a letting go of the pieces, the masks and the whatnot that we've been wearing, that we actually just take that stuff off and we use it for fuel in the fire as part of our growth. That's part of it too, is just the letting go.
When you're talking, I remembered this quote. I don't know if I shared it with you, but it was something to the effect of, like when we get in those spaces and we come away from them, we're changed because we can't unsee the experiences. We can't unfeel what all the growth that's happened that we weren't even conscious of in being in that space. And then, we have to, I think we were talking with Kate about that, about reintegrating back to your world again, to the real world stuff that you're talking about. But it's, and how our people perceive us now as changed or different. And it's, it's that whole thing of, I'm just showing more of who I am. And you're not seeing, you can only see me as like a small part of who I am. It hasn't been the all of me, because I haven't had the confidence or haven't had the awareness to show that much more of me. I wish I could find it. It was just beautifully put, of that dynamic and that shift in that happens when you have those big experiences.
Yeah. When we're so Leah just mentioned Kate. Kate happens to be one of the guides for the river trip that we're going to be on, and she loved the concept and actually put herself on our trip, and she is a wealth of knowledge and experience that I can't wait. I can't wait for you to experience her. And for me to experience more of her as well. So you also can listen to the live and unscripted we did with Kate. I don't remember. It's earlier this year. It's pinned to the top of the Righteous Rebel page on Facebook group page on, oh my gosh, Facebook. I keep doing that.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, Jen, when you're saying Facebook group, you're already saying that it's on Facebook. So you can go to, if you're not already a member of the Righteous Rebels Facebook group over on Facebook, you can go over there and hit the button and we'll let you in. I've been letting quite a few people in the last couple of days, and it's so exciting to have the new energy and the new perspectives and journeys that people are on to be a part of this group. But go over there. You can rewatch this from there. It will also be on our website, which is therighteousrebels.com. But pinned to the top is Kate's interview, and that's one I would highly recommend listening to. Kate's got a beautiful perspective on life, especially for her young age. She's lived a lot of really neat experiences that have molded and shaped her into an incredible human being. And we're so excited to have her as one of the guides on our river trip in August. But sparks, like this is like, it makes me so excited. I love fires. I love campfires. I love watching them burn. I love watching the embers burn down. I love the different elements of it, of watching how it goes through all of the stages. But it takes that little spark. And that is just something that I've been noticing, is that most of us just kind of wander around as a spark and wondering how we're ever going to step into the new things, or the greater flame that's like waiting to be fanned inside. I feel it too. I have felt it too. I sometimes still feel it. And I know that that's the piece that I believe Leah does too, just really want to bring out in you, is assisting you to really move from that beautiful little spark to just the massive, magnificent flames and fire that you are, that create change.
But why do we want to do that? Right?
Why
like,
do we want?
Yeah, like, why is that so important? Why does that, I just think of how much that's shifted in my life, and just recognizing the different sparks, and just how I feel. And then think about, when you feel good, how do you interact with people? And are you going to go out of your way to criticize them and make them feel bad? No, right? Like, you're going to, because you're feeling good, you're going to see the best in another, and they're going to feel good because they felt seen by you. So they're going to pass that on. It's such a beautiful ripple effect when we're living in our light, when we're really fanning our own flame, learning how to do that, for one, because we get so many other demands from everyday life that I think we're never taught how to fan our own flame, and or even ignite it if it feels like you've said, that we've never had that, because once we hit adulthood, that's childhood stuff, but how much
And don't play with
grow.
matches.
Yeah. How much we can grow and learn together if we're standing in our light and not feeling threatened by another person's light. Like, there is no, what's that called? You're not giving away your own light by in encouraging someone else's light. And
all right, I see matchsticks. Like, probably everyone's done this. You have matches. Everyone has a match, right? And someone's gets struck, and now it's not just a matchstick, it's a burning flame, and you get it close to another one, and it lights it. Sometimes it will light it without even touching it to it. But this one didn't lose its light. It just gave it to another. And then you light another, and before long you have this, not this little teeny thing, but you've got the bigness of it, and nobody had to lose their own light, their own match, in order to I appreciate that you bring that up, because that is the natural drug for me, is to recognize and see the light in other people, and then to I'm going to use the word amplify it. Like, I don't give it to them. I just help them recognize it in themselves, and we do the things to help fan that, so that then it's amplified. And I don't know. I know the value and recognize the beauty of when we're doing that together. And I really try to imagine my spaces with more people who want to do that. And it just, I mean, how do we change the world? By changing ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think sometimes, like, that can mean change and shifting how we're living. Yeah. And shifting how because again, like, I just keep coming back to this, you can't unsee what you've seen or what you've felt. And like, I've felt those moments many times in my life, and the things that I would do, or the way people treated me, or like, I couldn't accept, whether it was of my own choosing, living that way, or accepting that, or being in a situation that I just didn't find tenable anymore, because I know better. And you do what you can until you know better, and then you do better. And
does that go along with we're doing our very best at any given moment?
Of course.
Until we really know something different, and we learn how to use the tool.
Yeah, but we have to be open to it, and sometimes those changes can be painful. Like, if you say, for example, you've been a smoker all your life, or you've been drinking, or you've had a certain pattern for a long time. It's hard to shift that. One, recognize it when it happens, because it's so automatic. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing the thing. And then, just that feeling of loss, because it's something that you've always had and you've always done, and it's hard and it's painful. And sometimes it can inspire other comfort mechanisms that are equally as unhealthy. So there's definitely a need for support in those changes, and why who you surround yourself with is important for fanning. Are they fanning your flame, or are they dampening your flame?
So this question comes to mind because, and I think about this for myself because change. In fact, sometimes I don't even use the word change. I use the word shift because
Sure.
it's not as energetically charged for lots of people. And really, that is what we're doing. We're just shifting. We're shifting, making a shift here, making a shift there, and it is creating change. Um, but what is it? What is it in your opinion, and for you, that scares you when you recognize that you've got to change something, or why does change, like, what does it bring up for you, and why?
Hmm. It's a reorganization of how I have to look at things. Um, and sometimes it's just comfortable to be in your routines. For me, sometimes it's how it's going to affect the people in my world because I live with 5 other people and 2 dogs and all the things. So um, sometimes that change has a ripple effect, and not everyone's going to support that change or that shift, and sometimes that shift require or can cause discomfort in others, and that can be challenging because you're already feeling discomfort in the change, and then to pass that on to someone else who's also uncomfortable, it creates more discomfort and more resistance to committing to that shift and sticking with that shift, even though it's going to benefit you long term, and sometimes it's just having resolve to stick with it even when it's tough and you're not getting the support that you maybe want or need. So those are things that come up for me. Just, it was those things of I need to paint, and it would mean getting up sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning before my kids did, so I had some time to paint, until that backfired, and then they started hearing me and they'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. The whole day would be messed up. So, and I think a lot of it is, for me, was just being flexible and not attaching to, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be upset, and it means I failed. It means I need to shift how I'm looking at this, and try another path and try another way. And if it was important enough to me, I would. Um, I think sometimes it's a priority thing. I know lately painting has not been a priority for me, and I'm wondering why. I've had that shift, and sometimes it's upsetting because you want it to be a priority, but there's so many other things that are calling your attention, and I'm like, that's not fair to say to people, hey, you got to take time for you, and then me not doing it in my own world, because life can be challenging, and I think it just helps me recognize that when I am, and be more conscious and aware of the messages I'm putting out there, because life happens, and despite our best intentions, me really thinking through, like, how do I prioritize this, and what is it in my world that makes me want to prioritize it, that I don't have to think about it this way as intentionally in this season of life. So yeah, I don't know if I even answered your question, Jen.
I think so, and like 10 other questions just popped into my mind. um, well, I'm going to answer. I actually appreciate you bringing up the fact that, when we speak, it's bringing up the humanness in what we're doing, which is again part of what the Righteous Rebels is normalizing natural human behavior and saying it's okay. Like, we say these things, but the reality is we go through cycles as well, or life experiences present themselves, and the things we want to do, like paint, um, just don't they do tend to fall down the list a little bit, and that it's okay for that to happen for a time. It doesn't mean that you've set it aside forever. Or can you shift a little bit, what that experience looks like? Instead of sitting down for an hour session or a half hour, can you just sit down and doodle for 5 minutes, or just finding a different way to, like you say, still have the intentionality of doing that, and the actions, but without maybe the length of time. I,
Well,
I
and
just
as you're saying that, I think of, like, it is expressing itself in different ways, and it's not necessarily painting. I am a doodler. Sometimes I just, I'll be on a phone call and I'm doodling because it helps me unwind. It helps me just, I don't know, I just enjoy it. And it does come out in different ways, or it comes out in writing, or sometimes it'll be the ukulele, and giving yourself credit for other ways that you're expressing and not necessarily in that way. So I appreciate that reminder, Jen.
Yeah, it just as I were listening, I just thought, wow, this is so, it's so human. It's just so real, and we all do it. We all do it. I don't care what anybody says. Even like the biggest gurus on this planet do it. They're human. Um, but to answer the question that I asked you, like, what is, as I've thought about for myself, like, why am I, why does change scare me, or what is it, does it bring up for me? And, when people have asked me what my biggest fear is, I used to say things like, oh, it's success. Or for me, it's not really failure. It's actually success. Because with success comes responsibility, or I have felt like it comes with a measure of added responsibility. But the true answer, the more honest answer is, it's the fear of obliteration, and that change will bring like an annihilation, that some of those things, like, I won't exist anymore, because I've hung so tightly to some of the pieces of me that have felt safe, that have um, that have kept me in places of uh, knowing where belonging comes from, or knowing where love comes from, and what I've got to do in order to have those things. And that if I change, there's it's that annihilation and an obliteration of those pieces of me, and that has felt scary. And as you and I talk, and as we build, this, we continue to build out what Righteous Rebel is, and bring it to others. It's that recognition that that annihilation actually has to happen, and that it's about changing the energy and my thought process of what that is, and recognizing it. I always just go back to the butterfly, the caterpillar who goes into a cocoon and goes through obliteration and annihilation of who they are. Like, they become a gooey blob in order to become the beautiful thing that we love to chase around and try and capture. And we put on our clothing, and we wear as tattoos, and all of the things. And so for me, that's what it's about. Changes, that has been the concern with change, is just me losing who I think is important in who I've been, in the not recognizing all of the pieces of who I actually am, as I continue to grow and fan my own flames, learn how to fan my own flames. And change can feel scary, and
Well,
I'm ready to embrace it.
So, as you're talking, I'm thinking of the book that we're reading right now, When Things Fall Apart, and how much
Pema Children.
Yes, and how much in that interest of preserving what we think is comfort or safety, and by not taking on that change, we're actually generating more fear in ourselves, and how we move in the world, and making ourselves more measured, and maybe even I don't want to say timid, but that's the word that's coming to mind right now. But it's that, like you said, the butterfly, you have to fall apart to rebuild. I think so years ago, my immediate family, we it was like an atomic bomb went off, and at at one point it felt like, I went this way, my mom and my brothers went this way, my dad went that way. And I remember being in a space of, because everyone was so like in their own thing, not having the space to be the daughter that I felt I should be, and really having to be okay with myself, and knowing that, and setting that boundary that I needed to build myself up, and what that is before I'm any use to anyone else. Because if I'm in a, I'm going to quote broken, because I don't believe we're actually broken, but with that analogy, it's going to be called broken. Me being in that state of trying to figure my own self out, building my own life, I'm in no position to offer anything to anyone else, because I haven't grounded myself in who I am to support. And I always had a lot of guilt around that, like I had abandoned my family, and really I had to have my own fall apart so I could rebuild how I wanted to show up, and move through that with intentionality and purpose, instead of, their, taking their hurt and their, process of falling apart, and it coming at me unintentionally. But when we're hurting, we react differently. And
absolutely.
And then taking that on personally because I'm not feeling stable. And it's just, I needed to feel strong enough to hold that space for them, because at that point I had no space. I was just trying to build up my own. So definitely we need some space to fall apart, and so we can rebuild, and allow that space in others too, because we're all at different stages of our fall apart.
I love this. I don't love this concept of fall apart. Because it just popped into mind something that I've read it before, but it just came back recently into my presence. It's like a soul having a human soul having conversation with God, and the basic tenet of the conversation is, this person's like, I'm struggling, I'm falling apart, I feel shattered, and God's like, okay, good, that's good, and they're wanting to pick up the pieces, and he's like, no, that's not, I'm building something different in you. It goes back to that annihilation. It's like, we're not supposed to pick up all of the pieces that have fallen off. They may not belong in as part of our journey anymore, or they just don't fit. They served their purpose, and now they can move on and serve someone else or something else. And that, I know that for me, that piece has been really challenging, because I've wanted to, it's there's security in knowing, even if it's not something that's healthy for you, there's security in knowing what it is. And we don't always see, in fact, most often we don't see the vision of our own greatness. We can have an idea, and so for me, when things have fallen apart like that in the past, I've taken it really hard, and I've stumbled around, and I've been afraid to face it. And luckily I'm maturing a little bit, and I'm learning a few different things, and that actually learning how to step up and feel, and face what I feel like is annihilation or obliteration, and to recognize that there's actually beauty in that, and that when I choose to face it, things pass more quickly, and understanding comes more quickly, and the vision and clarity come more quickly. And I just know for me, that's kind of where I'm at. I love that piece in the Falling Apart book. In fact, I just heard it this morning, and I'm going to slaughter it, because I don't. Something about when we face our fears, when we step up to fear, it actually pins us to the present moment. And I love that concept of, it doesn't allow us to create a story or bring something up from the past, because we have to actually look at it right here, right now, for what it really is. And a lot of times it's not, I mean, it still can feel scary, but it's a lot of times not what we actually think it is. And it's empowering. It's empowering to be able to do that.
And does that mean that it requires an element of trust and allowing allowing the process to unfold as it will, and trusting in yourself that you're going to be able to handle all the changes and all the shifts and get through it in a strong way. I don't know, that just came out.
Yeah. So for those of you who are listening, Leah's just being a bum right now because she brought up another topic that one of us may have had some issues over. Lots of feelings in regards because trust is such an amazing thing, and it's such a big topic, and it really is a thread that runs through everything that we do, and that learning how to trust ourselves is a big thing. Learning how to trust whatever higher power, that is our source, and to trust who we feel like our creator is. I seriously, if you were closer.
Open hands. It's that whole thing of the sand. If we have sand and we squeeze on it, it's going to run through our hands. Or the butterfly, it's not going to stay there if we're trying to squeeze on it. And it's trying to remember to keep our hands open, even when we want to grasp on something.
So it's this is just another conversation that Leah and I have often, just about how, as a parent, I really tried to be a hands-off parent and teach my kids without grasping on or thinking that I knew best, but to share through experience, and then being able to live open-handed in my own world, because really I have had the tendency to want to really grasp onto things and to live open-handed and to trust that process. So Leah, thank you for bringing that one up too. It's a beautiful concept, actually.
For maybe another live and unscripted, where
possibly. I know we're getting down there, but I feel like I have to share this because it just brought this kind of emotion.
Okay.
It's the concept and the piece of recognizing that we are far greater. We're far greater than we ever give ourselves credit for or believe that we are, and that we have the innate ability to tap into an energy that we just most of the time don't have an understanding of. But when we can start tapping in even just a little, and starting to have that charge run through us, amazing things happen. And this morning, as you're talking about open-handed, and I was having a conversation with the energy that I call God, and just saying, like, hey, here's some things that I'm recognizing in myself right now, and here's some things that I'm feeling myself want to worry about. And then and actually saying the words, I'm coming to you with open hands, so that we can learn how to work together. And I don't have to hide these things, and I don't have to be ashamed of them. It's something that I'm experiencing, and I'm choosing to let go of and to put trust in, so that I can fan my flames and be the light that I know that I was sent here to be, so that I can help you fan your flames, because I see you and I feel you and what you have to offer this world and yourself, starting with yourself. So I appreciate, Leah, that you brought that up, and it is something that's tender to me.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I know we get the opportunity to experience and practice in this thing we call life, and it's an amazing practice ground. Even just learning how to trust one another in having some of these conversations, and opening doors to stories that we've held for a long time, and ways of thinking and moving through the world that maybe served us for a time but aren't helping us grow and move to the next stage of what we're called to do. And I just believe that we're all called here to do something, and do it to the best of our ability. And we can't do that without giving into trust. And that's challenging because we are fed stories from young, like from our infancy, of how the world works and how we should move through it. And it's hard to, I think of the story of Moses and he's like off living his life and doing his thing. He's separated from the family, and then he's called to go face his brother. Like, oh my God, like what do you mean? I don't, and I think we all have those moments in life where we're just met with a challenge, and it feels so opposite to what we want to be doing, and we have to trust. No, we have to.
We can choose to. We choose to practice it. Well, and to trust also requires us to be honest. To be honest with ourselves and our feelings and emotions, and to actually stand up and feel them and face them, and learn how to work with them. And not just happy ones, all of them, because they all make us human. And as you and I started getting to know each other better and deciding that, we were going to work together in this righteous rebel thing, that's the one thing that I probably appreciate the most, is the agreement that we had to be honest with each other, be honest with our feelings and our emotions about all the things that may go on or could go on, and then to bring that honesty to the table with each other, so that we can bring it out to our righteous rebel community, and the people who will come into the light of our bonfires, and add to it, and just, I guess, provide the doorway for other rebels to feel their spark, to stand in their own honesty and trust, so that they can stand in their light as well, and then continue the legacy of what rebel is. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. It's such a big thing, and I know I had a small tantrum, but I'll just own it and move on.
Oh, it's awesome.
It was a whole nother thing. Like, you're laughing at I don't want to be the burnout coach, because I don't. And you're like, well, maybe you can be the trust person, and your keynotes and whatnot can be on trust. And I did that while I was driving. But the reality is that is the one of the underlying and connecting threads. So I appreciate you continually bringing it out.
Wait, what was that quote, Jen? The closer we fear means we're moving closer to the truth. Yep. Love it. Yeah, love you all out there in Rebel Land. If you haven't already, we would love to see your beautiful face and do a little video about be bold, be brave, be a rebel, and put it on the Facebook group. We'd love to see you and what rebel means to you. Or a week ago, Shawnee shared her story of how she practices rebel in her profession, and we'd love to know what rebel means to you. So if you haven't done so, share that in the group. We'd love to see your face.
I love it. And we currently have a few products, things, books, stickers. And you know what? We're just going to get used to, we're shamelessly promoting ourselves. Why would we not? Why would we not? So here's a couple of things that you can go to Amazon and purchase their Leah will make sure that you have the links. She's amazing at that. I currently am not. Um, Authored by Leah herself, Living with Dirty Glasses. Remember When? We're actually going to start doing more things with Remember When, authored by Leah herself. And a project that we did together, the very first project we did together was the My Revelations Journal. Unpack the mountains they were meant to climb. And this is a practice that Lee and I practice together often with each other, is saying, whoa, you ready to take that one out of your backpack? And we physically turn around and allow the other person to take it out of the backpack. This thing's full of amazingness. You can order that on Amazon. And we're working on a lot of other cool things. The other thing that you can do for yourself right now, if you really want to have a different learning experience and way to start fanning that spark that is you, is get yourself on the boat. Come have the learning experience of being on the river. Take yourself out of the stinking motel room or the conference room and actually get in nature and physically and mentally and emotionally experience you in different ways. Like, come find out who you are in a different setting and around people who can support you as you are in this place where you all feel a little bit nervous or a whole lot scared, or just all the excitement that oozes from you. That trip is in August. It's the 14th through the 20th. It's get a hold of us and we will register by phone call. This is for women it's multi-generational, because we feel like we all have something to teach each other, and that there's wisdom at every age, and that there's ability and confidence that can be built at every age. So women of from 18 on. Leah, what's the best way? Are you going to stick that? What's the best way for them to get a hold of us? We do have
you can comment, or you can go to therighteousrebels.com to find out more about it there. You can also reach out to us on Facebook Messenger, email.
Where did we put the Calendly link?
On the Righteous Rebel. So there'll be a button that says apply here, and you can book a time to just chat, and we can just see if it's a good fit for both of us, and because just to protect the energy of the group and make sure it's going to serve you. So you can book that. The Calendly link is on the Righteous Rebel page, so it's therighteousrebels.com.
Can we pin that? We're just going to do this right here. Is that something we can pin to the top of the Facebook group as well?
Yeah, I think maybe I have. I don't know. Let me check.
We'll create some kind of post that we can pin to the top of the Righteous Rebels Facebook group on Facebook.
Now you're just doing it on purpose.
I am totally doing it on purpose. Hey, hold on. I'm getting a message from Amy. Amy is part of the Salmon River Lodge, and part of the river trip. So Amy, we're so glad that she's a general manager, and I'm telling you what, we're so excited to introduce these people to you, and you're going to be well taken care of. You're going to be well fed. You're going to be well played. All of the things. We got you. So get a hold of us. Let's have a chat and let's get you in the boat. Preferably sooner than later, because we want to know who we're going to be playing with, and have those ways to prepare you before you actually get there. So, okay, we're over. Thank you for sharing the last hour and 4 minutes with us. We think you're amazing. And remember, be bold,
be brave,
be a rebel.
Be a rebel.
We'll see you soon.